This is my final multimedia project update. I am going to share with you my finished teaching e-portfolio. So this is the home page. As you can see, it's changed from last time. I made some updates. So this is alyssacohen.com. Now I have a domain name. So it's just my name, easy to find. And on the front page, I decided to add a video and a quote about that my supervisor from student teaching, just to sort of give an overview of who I am as a teacher. And then through here you can see all of the links on the page. So the video is 5 minutes long. I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but I'll just play a short clip so you get the idea, and then you can always go to alyssacohen.com if you want to see the rest.
Miss Cohen, she's a good teacher. She teaches us all kinds of stuff. Miss Cohen because she's smart. I love Miss Cohen because I think she's a great teacher. I love Miss Cohen when she teaches the students math. Miss Cohen is a good kindergarten teacher because she teaches my room class art.
So you get the general idea. It's all of my 38 students in kindergarten saying why they think I'm a good teacher. And I think that that speaks a lot to who I am as a teacher, because students are the most important thing. And, you know, as a potential employer, I personally would rather hear from the students than, you know, a university supervisor or something like that, because I think what the kids feel about a teacher really says a lot about what they do as an educator. So I'm going to go through quickly because I know a lot of you have already seen it. So if you go to my About, here's my bio, picture of me, a little bit about how I became involved in education, and then my teaching philosophy, which is a little bit longer, but I decided to bold some of the key words so that if somebody wanted to skim through it, they could get a general idea of what kind of teacher I am. And then my classroom management plan, which is super long. It's more of an essay, which I also, you know, bolded some of the more important things in the over-encompassing. So I don't really expect anybody to read the whole thing, but it's there in case, just so that a potential employer knows that I'm capable of creating one. And then a simple contact form. Nobody's used it yet, but it's just nice to know that it's there for whatever reason. And then on my resume page, if you go here, here's my resume, and you can click on it, and it brings you to a PDF to print or look at more in detail. And then I have my documentation here, my background check, my praxis scores, my transcripts, my degrees, and my master's degree in just a matter of weeks. So that's very exciting. And then I have a certificates page. Here's where my teaching cert will go, my ed tech cert, and here's my Jersey City substitute teaching cert. And then I also have a section for professional development. So these are all the professional development certificates that I've gotten during my student teaching and things like that, and from the teachers conference. So then I have the artifacts section where you can see a variety of lesson plans that I've done for all different grades, and I represented them with images to make it easier for somebody to view rather than having to read a lot of words. So if you were interested in, say, the Ellis Island one, you click on it, it says go to link, and it brings you to the PDF of the unit plan. I keep clicking on wrong ones, hold on. So then I have my materials section, and so it's just various worksheets and things that I've made for use in the classroom to show that I like to make my own materials. And then I have a classroom management section, which just shows things I've created for the classroom or ways that I've designed a classroom to, you know, this is like a schedule, or we have posters and behavior charts and things like that. And then I have a parent communication section where it's mostly newsletters that I did for my student teaching classroom. And then the ed tech section, I have digital tools. So some of the things I've made for this class, and then other things that I've made for other classes, as well as a movies section. And I just have a little thing here about why I included movies in my teaching portfolio, and I just think it's a part of being a 21st century learner. So those movies are here for anyone to look at. And then in my testimonial section, this is my favorite part because of what I said before. I think that student and parent opinion is the most important thing when it comes to a real testimonial about who I am as a teacher. So my first section is from parents, and I have a collection of little notes and things that parents have given me. And then I also have a from students, which is my favorite part because the same reasons I've been saying. As you can see, I like teaching little children, and this is part of the reason why. And then I have my letters of recommendation, so the official letters that people have sent to give me to future employers. And when you click on them, they bring you to a PDF just like the other documents. So then in the last section, I have a section of teaching pictures. And if you want to click on any of them, they expand so that you can see them better. Here's me on Halloween dressed as Anna from Frozen reading to the children. Not a typical Tuesday, although I would like to do that just as much. And then I have a teaching videos section. And this one is me teaching a full lesson. And this is that same video from before. I just wanted to have a section to link it to within the site in case I decide to take it off of the home page. I have a little video of my tutoring student reading all by herself, and then me doing a very silly felt board story. And then I have a section of student work just to see some of the work that either my tutoring students here or my student teaching students have done with me or while I was in the classroom. And then the last thing is a link to my personal photography page, which is another interest of mine, just to show that I have other skills and interests other than teaching, and that I have some skills that might be of benefit to, a school district or a school, because photography is always needed, and I think it's an important part of education and photographing portfolios and student experiences and things like that. So now I'm going to use this as my final piece about the course too and relate it back to my blog. So let's see, I opened a lot of links here. So I'm going to close them, and then I'm going to go to each blog post that helped me to create my ePortfolio. So this was the first one, and this is where I made the introduction video. And I actually used what I learned here to create the video on the home page of my website. So I definitely use the skills and info that we have learned from our readings to create a cohesive and easily watchable video. And then here in this media, I just took the idea of sort of advertising myself, to be honest, and I'm thinking about, the age differences in potential employers that might, I could have somebody who's a few years older than me, and I could have somebody who's a few years older than my mother. So I didn't want to do anything that was too modern and unwelcoming, and I didn't want to do anything that was too old-fashioned that a younger person wouldn't think is up to date. So then here, the online teaching community, I definitely got more out of Reddit than I did the National Geographic education, because I found that people weren't as communicative in the Google Plus community unless it was about something based from the National Geographic, sort of about links and things like that. But I ended up posting my website on Reddit just to get some feedback, and people noticed typos, and they sent me some suggestions, and actually putting the quote on the front page was a suggestion from someone from Reddit, so that was really helpful. And this was the CD cover, and so I pretty much took this into the Design Basics Index and everything we learned about design into account the entire time I was creating my website. from the amount of fonts to use, to the colors, to the rules about spacing and negative space and workable links and all of the things just to make visual harmony, as it was called in the book. So then same thing goes here with the effective graphic design. I created a couple of things for the site, similar to how I created this. For example, my resume. I wanted something that was going to stand out a little bit more from the ordinary resume, so I decided to do a pop of color, and that turquoise hopefully will set me apart. You know, if they're deciding between 30 candidates, that's a lot to remember, and somebody might just say, hey, the girl with the turquoise on their resume, or something like that. So it's just a nice little thing, and I took into account readability and all of the things we learned through effective graphic design. And so working with digital images, this was definitely a big one for my website because, as you can see, I used a lot of pictures on my website, and as well as in the sort of the root pages from the topics. So in this artifacts section, all of these images will take you to the pages throughout. So for these three, I used images that were mine, self-explanatory for parent communication. Obviously, I used a newsletter. But for lesson plans, or if you go to, let's say, the resume section, these aren't pictures that I used, but I am so glad that we learned about copyright and fair use, because I probably would have just Google imaged all of this stuff, but instead I was able to find things. I went on Flickr and I looked under the Creative Commons license section, and I found things that were available for use. I even found some pictures on blogs that I liked, and I contacted the person and said, would it be okay if I use it on my teaching website? And everybody's feedback was really helpful and really generous. So, and then I made sure basically to follow my storyboard, and that was the most helpful thing. I'm so glad I did it. I will never do anything like this without one, because I would have been so overwhelmed and lost without it. And I kept in mind all of these little notes that I put, and I printed it out and I pinned it to my wall, and I kept looking at it, and then I started checking off as I got things done. And I found that it really kept my whole experience in line, and it kept me from getting overwhelmed. And I did one section at a time. So I did the about, then the resume, then the artifacts, etc., until it was done. And then it was time for me to start applying. And I've already been to one interview, and they're sending me an offer. So it's very exciting. And I honestly feel that my e-portfolio had something to do with that, because I felt that the employer felt like they knew a little bit about me before I showed up. So it wasn't such a, they weren't going into it blindsided, I guess, which is a little bit more typical of the interviews other than a resume and a cover letter. So I think this speaks more to who I am as a teacher, because I think I have a lot to offer, but my resume doesn't necessarily speak to that, because you can't convey creativity and enthusiasm and passion in a resume. You just can't. And so that's why I'm really glad I took this class, and I'm really glad I did this website. And if anybody in the class has any questions or thinks I should change something on the website, I'm so open to it. And if anybody else wants to make a website, I'd be glad to give you some advice based on what I've learned. So I appreciate you watching this long video. I appreciate all your help throughout the semester, and I wish you all luck in your future endeavors.